This week I'm here with Becca Mosier. Hi, Becca.
Hi.
I want to point out that the reason that we're not wearing masks is we're separated by this like jail-style plexi. I know, I feel like we should have phones, right?
I would like that.
Get out of control. Actually, this might get out of control because I know Becca personally, and that's why I asked her to be here. So I'm going to have her jump in and tell us a little bit about your role in the community or organizations you'd like to highlight.
Okay. Well, I think that partly why you maybe thought to talk to me is because we've had a lot going on in our community lately, which isn't always the case. In New Holstein, it's sort of a sleepy town, and I grew up here, and then I moved away, which I don't know if we're going to talk more about the reason I'm back. But
I mean, you can answer that question right now too. It was that a question that I always ask later is, how did you end up here in New Holstein? So born and raised.
Right. I was born and raised. My mom still lives in the house I grew up in on Illinois Avenue, and I was born. I just turned 40, so
woo! Putting it out there for the world.
Sure. I'd rather grow older than not, so I'm kind of embracing it at this point.
Yeah, good.
40 years ago, and she lives in that house, and I went through the school system here, the public schools, and went to Madison for college, was there for 5 years. I took the 5-year plan. Then I went to Chicago to be a teacher, and my brother lives there still, and he's 4 years older, so I had like a network of friends immediately. Love Chicago, miss Chicago. But then I met my husband when I worked in Chicago, and he lived in Nashville, so I moved to Nashville for 3 years. So I was away for a good 15 years, and then we got married and had our first daughter. And when she was 1, I would joke a lot with my husband when he would sort of be stressed out with his job or whatever. I'd say, we can always move to Wisconsin. I'd be fine with that. And for a long time, it was just a joke. And then one day he's like, okay. And I was like, really? Because I was very homesick for my mom, especially when I had my baby. And, now the baby's 7, and we have another one who's 4. But we came back 6 years ago, and right back to New Holstein. I never thought I would. Had you told me that in high school I'd be back here to raise my family, I think I'd have laughed because I couldn't wait to leave.
Right.
But there's something safe about it, and I struggle sometimes because it is very homogenous.
Right.
And I want to give my children the experience I had later in my life, but I realized I grew up here and I still had that experience, and I still came back. So I know that there's a big world, and a lot of it actually has to do with reading, is why I feel like I know more about the world. I didn't travel everywhere, but reading surely opens doors that, to learn more. Anyway, so my role in the community now is I've been back for 6 years, and I didn't take a huge role in any way. But then this year we had a new mayor elected back in April, and then this thing happened over the summer, late summer, early fall, where I had heard that he proposed and he wanted to outsource the police department. And I don't actually know that I have a problem with that per se. It seemed like it was going to happen pretty fast, and I'm all about democracy, and I'm very much about not losing our collective voice. And I've been feeling pretty, like we haven't had a voice for the last few years, and it's frustrating. And I've had to focus a lot on the big W and the small W, the big world and the small world, and what world I actually can control.
Right.
So I think I found my voice in that way here. So I went to one of the council meetings, the second meeting where it was talked about, and then I wrote a letter to the editor at the paper. So I was in the paper 2 weeks in a row.
And that's where people might recognize your name or your face then.
Possibly. I usually talk about my maiden name being Zebung because it's a pretty unique name. My parents were small business owners my whole childhood. For 16 years, they owned the Zabun Morning Glory Distributing. They distributed dairy products all over. So I know a lot of the other small business owners because that was their market, was schools, churches, restaurants, smaller grocery stores, gas stations. So a lot of people recognize me, and they know my parents, they know my mom and dad. My dad is pretty gregarious, so he doesn't live around here anymore.
My dad is like that, and we call him the mayor of McDonald Land.
Yeah.
In his small town as well. You hit on some of these things that also drew me back to a small town, and that is that you can make an impact locally. I mean, that's what I've always loved. I also, from a small town, moved to big cities, came back and realized, like, you have this voice and this power in this place. And I have watched you be very active in our community over the last year in like multiple capacities.
Well, Kiwanis is a good one to talk about, and that was all because of you. So we became friends because of the library, which this is such a sacred place for me too, because don't say latchkey kid in a negative way, but my mom
Right.
says it, and she pokes at it because she feels like they were busy with their business.
Sure.
So she thinks it was a failure. I think it was a success.
Win. Yeah.
I like know every nook and cranny of this library, and I'm sure the librarians were like, "Oh my God!" I would like use the phone to like remind my mom to come pick me up, and every time it'd be like 4:45.
No, we love it.
Well,
we do. Were you a naughty kid?
I don't know. I was.
Were you running around screaming?
Okay, I wasn't outwardly naughty, but I was definitely reading Judy Blume forever when I was like.
So was yeah. I was reading V.C. Andrews, Mary.
Oh yes, Flowers in the Attic. So I mean, I don't think our parents realize that. I mean, nowadays there's the internet and so many other things, but here there is a lot of things that you can read that are above your age bracket, but who knows it? But I'd like sit in the back corner and like read forever. I mean, it's so salacious. I'm sure it's not anymore, but But I love this place. It opened my eyes, and I loved reading always as a kid.
Did you even love it when you came in and I kept saying, "You're going to be a Kiwanis"?
That's right. So my mom got to talking to you because she somehow got to talking about stuff and getting to know you a couple years ago. Yeah. And you live in this house that we've always loved in Children. Yeah. We've figured out a way. We finagled a way. You did. To get a tour.
They swindled a tour into my home. Anybody's welcome. Just come knock on my door. You must wear a mask. But
usually she does require that. I do. I forgot mine in the car. We
have plexi.
It's fine. But yes, I love your house, and I grew up loving it. So yeah, when I got the invite, I called my mom. I'm like, "We're going to Dee's house. We get to finally see inside that amazing house." So yes, then we got to know each other, and you said, "I think you should join Kiwanis," and I was like, "All right." I don't know why I didn't seek that stuff out on my own. I volunteered in Chicago. I volunteered at a nursing home. I called bingo because I miss my grandparents, and I feel like I have that heart of service, but I didn't necessarily. I have little kids. You know how it is.
Well, I do. I think that the reason I talked you into being a Kiwanis, which I'm so happy about, and you can join too. Just ask either one of us for an application or any other member of the community.
I'm not only a member now. I'm the treasurer. she's about to be the president. So yeah.
Well,
who runs the world? Girls.
But I saw you as like you follow through on that. I mean, I think maybe not being actively seeking it, but saying, yeah, I'm down for that. Like, I'd try anything. I'm interested in this community. I want this community to be a great place. I'm raising my children here. So, I mean, I see this logical evolution of coming to some of those service things. Yeah. And now I would say any one of us don't volunteer for the leadership positions of it. You're just kind of like, nobody else is going to take it.
Oh, it's a little flattering when people do bring you up for things, even though it's kind of a trick. Like, oh, you're so wonderful and smart.
You are excellent at numbers.
You're competent. Can you do this? And you're like, sure. I mean, it's wonderful people. And I want to see Kiwanis grow because people of our age bracket should. I thought this, I do actually remember a moment that I had that feeling. When we were doing the movies in the park, that was, I think, 2 summers ago, that was a group of, I think, pretty much parents, but moms that just put that group together to do movies in Kiwanis Park on a big screen that they fund. Did Kiwanis actually fund part of it? I feel like
I think
a donation.
That we had a donation. I think Lions did as well. I think several organizations.
So I was a part of that. I know the moms, the women who started that, so then I kind of got involved in helping with that, and we had to come to Kiwanis to present, and I remember I just felt like, wow, a lot of these are the people that were my teachers and my parents' friends, and they're all getting older, and a lot of them, it was dwindling. There wasn't many people at the meeting. I think there's more membership, but not active people at the meetings, and I do think at that point I had a conversation with someone in the group for the movies in the park saying, I feel like our generation has sort of fallen asleep at the wheel. Like we are now, I was in my late 30s, I'm now 40, and our parents did this stuff when they were in their 40s. Right. We just didn't realize they were in their 40s.
Right.
You look back now and you're like, oh, that's the age that they were doing all of that.
Right,
I feel like I'm still in the middle of being an adult and being a kid because I have my parents in my life yet. My mother definitely makes me lunch now that I work in home, and she'll heat up my lunch or make me something, and
what was that address on Illinois? Oh, that's funny.
So I don't always feel like the grown up, the mom in the room, because I have mine yet, and I think it's a sweet spot of life. So it's easy to fall asleep at the wheel. But I think that with everything happening with the police department and feeling like this was going to kind of go go through fast. Then I wrote the letter, and then I went to the next meeting, and I spoke at the public hearing, and I read a letter from someone in the community who couldn't go, and I said my own piece, and I got a lot of great feedback. I appreciate the feedback, because you don't want to speak out of turn, you don't
absolutely right. And I do feel like that, to me, watching that process, even, I mean, I was just helping the library stream and watching that process and watching our other people who were listening and hearing the community feedback and ultimately altered course. So for me, that was such an amazing demonstration of the democratic process of, there's this this analysis phase where people are giving their feedback. And I think you helped lead a charge of speaking, bringing out people's voices. And so I guess maybe that's a message that I would send to the community in general, that this in small towns, you can do that kind of stuff, It's really just about finding those ways to be active.
Right, and the ripple out effect of when I think about the big world feels overwhelming at times and out of our control.
It is, to be fair.
Right.
I mean,
we don't have a finger on the pulse to the White House. We can't just call up our congressman.
Right.
We can. We have to leave messages, but we don't just give them our feedback the way that we can. So you work on your small world, and then that ripples out. And if more people collectively again woke up, and peaceful protesting is the American way. I think it gets convoluted and the message gets mixed up, but the peaceful protesting and just standing up and saying, I have a voice and I'm going to use it, we have to be doing that.
Right.
Or we do basically forfeit our right to look back and complain.
Right.
And say, well, I don't like that we don't have a police department. Well, did you speak up when it was happening?
Right.
Did you know about it? I really wanted people to know, so that I think you were talking about that a group of 5 of us pretty much talked during that process and decided to canvass our wards. A ward map is on the website, the city's website, and we all have 2 older people per ward, and we went around and we rang doorbells old-fashioned way, and I loved it. I didn't think that was something I would love to do, so now
it's cool because it's getting in the community. So it does, to me, it's like not about what you were doing it for, but the fact that there's these community connections happening. That I value that about this small community. That is my favorite part of New Holstein. And we are I knew we'd go wildly off topic. So I think we've answered a bunch of the questions, but speaking of favorite thing about New Holstein, thing to do, place to go, thing to eat, what is yours?
Well, I will say that I lived in Chicago for 6 years, and I still came home and ate Village Inn pizza because that's like I grew up on.
It tastes like home.
It's so good though. I mean, even Adam from Nashville, my husband,
Absolutely.
says it's just something about the way that the cheese is like on the top, and then the stuff's in the middle is different. It's all very delicious, obviously, but it's also like it's good. I
like the ratios of cheese to crust to sauce to.
It's a perfected craft. And
I agree.
That even though I lived in different places, it's still the best pizza in my opinion.
That's awesome.
I love our parks. I love our woods that we have in our parks.
Yeah.
So you can just go there, and I played in them as a kid. I built forts, and it's just like solace and alone time. So when my 7-year-old got a taste of freedom this summer, we let her bike around with her friends. But but that's hard. Like
I'm not ready. Yeah, I can't even think about
your umbilical cord stretches. My mom can attest that. It stretched to Madison. It stretched to Nashville. It stretched to Chicago.
Right.
It's back here. It's elastic, but. Yes, I let her go, but I'm always like, check back in like a half hour. She doesn't know what that means, but it's like 2 hours, and then she'll check back in. But they go to the woods, and they like building forts and playing. That I'm like, go and do that. Yes, you can. Yeah. I love outside time.
That's a favorite part of New Holstein too. I agree. Like the Tree City feel, how you can feel both in the middle of nowhere, but in the city at the same time. I enjoyed that. So.
Yes. And a dog park. I actually got an email about that, saying that, here's some...
Your next move.
Yeah.
This mover and shaker, if anybody would like to join her, is campaigning for a dog park.
Because it was I thought it before, but never did I ever feel the need to, push for it until I rang doorbells, and I talked to over 100 people, and also probably 100 that I didn't talk to. All these dogs are keeping guard. You ring the bell, and they live in the windowsills. There's they sleep there. They're by the curtains. You're not even home, and they're home for you. Almost everybody has a dog, and I'm like, I don't know these dogs.
Right.
My dog doesn't know these dogs.
Right.
We need a place for these dogs to run and get to know each other. Yeah. And it's a chain link fence, and it's grass, and it's cleaning up after yourselves. It's not even a big investment, and I wouldn't even be having to ask for that much.
Yeah.
Besides the maintenance part of it, you know.
We go up to, sometimes when we're in Appleton, we take Frank, my giant beast of a dog.
He tried to jump on my mother's lap repeatedly, and he weighs as much as she does.
Yeah, more.
Definitely.
He weighs more. But we take him up to the Allegheny Dog Park, and what I love about that is as a bunch of dog owners, I wouldn't be out there. I'm not I don't approach people and talk to them. You kind of have to force your way into my life. I'm such an introvert.
I know.
Yeah, you have to sneak in. But we'd go there and you just find yourself standing next to people, laughing about what your idiot dog is doing. And I would love a dog park here. I similarly think
it's a common connection. Because here's what I noticed too. It didn't matter when I was interacting with people in my community. We did not argue. You're not going to do that with people, even if I knew if they had a different political flag on their, on their house or a sign on their lawn. It's a human connection. Absolutely. And dogs are the same. It's like a human connection where you have this love of a dog and they're in your family, and you don't have to then think about all the other stuff, even if it's just a glorious 10 minutes of interacting. Totally. You're not picking at each other like you do in the internet. As great as it is, it connects us to the world. It has, and that's what I said at the public hearing too. Mm-hmm. It has been a disservice to us remembering that we are all human beings, mm-hmm. and I love those. There's a video where they have people behind an X-ray screen, like hugging and kissing and loving each other, and you don't know if they're white or black or mm-hmm. whatever, or gay or straight, and they're just skeletons, like hugging each other, and that's who we are. All the other stuff should fall away, and I think if we have more interacting. And COVID's made it hard.
I was going to say, I think that's been a difficult part. Mm-hmm. We've missed that connection here, which is why we started a virtual show. It was how do we find our way back into some of that connectedness? And the interviews have been my favorite part. The fact that also the most difficult for me, because of my introvert nature.
Well, I love that you're doing it, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Good, I'm so glad. I don't even... What are we at for time?
Oh, hair past a freckle because you're not wearing a watch.
I knew this was going to happen. Oh, man. You and I could just talk for hours. It's a good thing.
That's why we're friends.
Yeah, that's why we didn't imbibe before this.
That would have been.
And then we're working.
If we do this again, we could have done.
Okay, so if you could have a meal with anyone, past or present, who would it be and what would be served?
Well... So I thought about this because I did ask what we were going to talk about, and that's tough because I'm at a point, there was a time I would have answered that hands down somebody famous at some level, mm-hmm. even just like Gandhi or, mm-hmm. somebody amazing. But then I was thinking when I really read the question, the people that pop in my mind, it's a package deal, but it's my grandma and grandpa, my mom's mom and dad.
You're like the third, not week in a row, but 3 of 4 have recently mentioned family.
I miss them so much all the time, and to just have a meal with them and have a conversation.
What meal?
Well, something my grandma would make.
You're gonna make her cook. She has to come back from the.
Yep.
Cook for my grandma.
Yep. She would love it.
What meal do you miss the most?
Well, she taught me how to make dumplings, but we could do it together. Like when I remember her. I was probably 8 or 9, and she was standing behind me, showing me how to knead the dough. So every time I make them, I feel her
hug.
Yes, and I just would love to. And my grandpa was very. He read every newspaper, and so my mom would call him and say, "Who should I vote for today?" So it's like election time. Yeah. So I know he'd be totally into dogging. I mean. I think he'd be as sad as I am about many of the states of affairs of things, but we could at least. I'm older now. I lost them relatively young. My grandma had Parkinson's, and she went into a nursing home. My grandpa lived longer, and he was in a nursing home at the end too. So being the age I'm at now, I just think I would even appreciate them more.
Absolutely.
So
I lost all of my grandmother, who I recently lost, was like the longest grandparent I had. All of them were like one I never met, and I was 20 or younger. And I feel so robbed. Like, you talking about that was making me want to cry, because I think of my grandmother cooking in the kitchen, and those little memories I have and all the things I didn't get to have. So you guys keep answering this, and you're just going to make me get all
I think that
emotional.
Probably COVID related, too, that we all miss the people that we're supposed to be able to be around and hug. And I have, I'm like afraid to hug my parents because I don't want to be the kiss of death, and that's like just a terrible feeling. But true, it's. And so, I just miss them. I missed them before, and I miss them even more now.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good
So
answer.
it's not very, it's not.
It's pretty
it's not
consistent. It's emerging as a consistent answer. Which I know I like that. I do.
I mean, so if you told me what celebrity living or dead, I really feel like I would want to probably have a meal with, well, I don't know. I was going to say Barack Obama because I know him from when I worked in Chicago. He was good friends with the owner of the company I worked for.
Right.
And like I talked to him on the phone once when he was a senator, and I'd just be like, "Look at how far you've come."
Yeah.
I like feel like we could be friends. I feel
Oh,
like
doesn't
you know,
I?
if I just
gives
had
me
one
that vibe.
chance to talk to like Amy Schumer,
Yeah.
Brene Brown, Glennon Doyle. These are shout outs because I know you're gonna watch this. My sister-in-law.
Nationwide, this is being viewed.
My sister-in-law gets to interview real famous. She's semi-famous, well, I should say famous, and she interviews others. So she like has talked to Glennon Doyle on a podcast. I should send it to you.
You should.
So I'm super jealous of that because I'm like, all I need is one time to talk, and we would be besties forever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have a good list of celebrities too. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take grandma and grandpa. That's better. Final question. Favorite book.
Okay, another one that I got to think about, which I appreciate because normally my reaction would be, well, I have a daughter named Harper, and that was after Harper Lee. That was why I even knew that name.
Yeah.
And so To Kill a Mockingbird was always my favorite book, or one of them. And I think it's a great example of how Maya Angelou's quote about when you know better, you do better. You do the best you can until you know better, and then you do better. Because I still think it's a valuable book. But this year, with all of the Black Lives Matter, news and all of the information I've learned about reading things from Black people's perspectives, made me realize I love that book, but that book was written by a white woman as the perspective, talking about racism in the South and talking about a quaint town, Macon, which is in some ways similar to New Holstein, and it just framed it differently for me. So I don't dislike it. I don't know that I'd call it my favorite anymore, and I think that I'm trying to find books written in the perspective of people that live those experiences.
Right.
But for plain old fiction, then I was thinking the book Forever by Pete Hamill. I read that.
Okay.
It spans from, it's like mystic Ireland. It spans from like, you should read it, a long time ago, and then it goes over time because it's.
Is it magical realism?
Yeah, I mean, I don't usually like weird magic stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not into like The Hobbit. Sorry, I'm not.
Yeah.
I did read Harry Potter, but I wouldn't call it my favorite.
But see, magical realism for me is when it's like, when it's a real narrative, but then these things that are unbelievable happen.
Yes.
And I don't like magical realism. I'm like straight fiction, historical fiction.
I think you should. I'm gonna challenge you to read
it.
It's Forever. It's called Forever.
Okay, always outside your genre. That's a big in the library world. You make recommendations, one in, one out. Yeah.
And The Power of One. I was thinking about that. The Power of One is similar.
Okay.
And that one is in the same way. And I don't normally gravitate toward those, but I've read that one too, and it's really good. And so that would be another one I would recommend.
Well, I trust you, so I'll try.
So those are two of my favorite. If I have to go back to the archives, I check, as you know, I check books out and they sit on my shelf, and I hold them hostage.
I know.
And the worst thing you did was to not have fines anymore because it just made me into a really
Don't
bad
tell people.
really bad person. Now they're just like,
yeah.
I don't have to pay the fines. So.
You can still give us donations.
I will. I need to. I brought like half of them back, but then I was like, I can't give these back yet. I really want to read some of them. So I'm just finishing American Dirt.
Yeah.
Very good.
See, that's my genre. It's nonfiction. I like.
No, it's fiction.
Oh.
American Dirt. It's about a migrant mom and her son, and it's hard to read. It's painful and sad.
I'm I'm sorry.
It's fine. This one it was on your lucky day table, which I never knew about. So I held
We didn't tell you because you're such a bad patron.
I just, I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry.
I know.
We remove fines because we don't want people to have that feeling. Really. I felt the guilt. I stopped going to libraries for a little bit. How sad is that? Overdue books.
Well, remember when I thought there was no fines on children's books, and so I had a bunch of children's books checked out forever, and then I brought them back, and it was a big fine, and I was like, because it was a dime a day, and I had like 50 books, because my children come here and fill up bags of books when we could do those things. I think about life like pre-COVID and post-COVID. I'm always like, remember when we used to do those things, like sing happy birthday around a cake, and then you'd blow on this cake, and then you'd serve this to your family? like a death cake. I can't
I
even,
do
I'll
watch-
never want to do that again.
I do watch TV now with this like totally new lens of like, why are those people all hanging? What are they
Oh my God, they're
doing?
hugging. I'm horrified when people hug. Like I watched the season finale of Parks and Recreation. Have you watched that yet?
The entire series of
Yes.
Parks and Rec a couple of times.
Okay,
I love
it's
that.
the best.
It's the best.
I've been compared to Leslie Knope a lot, and
I'm not surprised.
here for that. I'm like the one that I just posted. I took a video of the clip, which is probably illegal, but I had to. When she's with Senator McCain, and he's like, "Have you ever been told that you're passionate, intimidating?"
Yeah.
She's
Yes.
like, every week for my entire life since I was in 4th grade. Moving along, and I'm like,
Yes.
yeah, I don't.
I identify with that.
I do.
I've been
I don't
told
mean to
that
be
as
that
well.
way. I don't mean to overwhelm people. Even my
Yeah.
own best friend, we've not had very many arguments in our life. We've been best friends since we were 10.
Mhm.
Well, she told me once a while back when we did have a bit of a disagreement on something. She's like, "You're really hard to argue with because you have like rapid fire arguments. And you have this cachet of like knowledge, and I don't have that, but I do still believe just as passionately." And I'm like, "I know you do, but you got to come with the facts, sister." But I don't. So yes, I my heart is. In
I
the
don't
right place.
mean to intimidate people. I just like throwing facts
I'm
at
a
them.
bulldozer.
Yeah,
Apparently,
yeah.
there's like personality types, and when you take those,
Yeah.
like at workplaces, like,
Mhm.
I don't want to be a bulldozer, so I
Yeah.
try to learn, from the feedback. But,
I'm an introvert, believe it or not. I know.
but yeah, on Parks
Yes.
and Rec at the end, the very end, they're like all hugging, and I was like, what is that? I haven't
Mhm.
hugged in my unit of 4 people, and I probably
Yeah.
hug them too much now. I'm like, I can't let you
I
go.
know,
It's
same.
the only hug that I get.
Same.
Or like when she had a little very last minute 40th birthday party with 3 people, but hey. I've heard I know the Bible, even if I don't go to church anymore, where 3 or more are gathered in my name. So it was a party.
It was. It was.
And even if it was 3 people, you cooked me a delicious meal. But I
We
feel like
cooked
we did
together.
a collaborative meal,
Mhm.
and our friend was there. And when we
Didn't
drank,
blow out any candles.
no, but when we drank some wine at the end, I feel like I definitely was given hugs, and I was like, I'm not gonna let go because this is illegal and wrong, and you don't even like hugs, so I'm gonna
I
just like
don't.
squeeze the life out of you.
Yeah, the part I don't miss is not having to hug people all the time.
And
I love hugging my family. It's
Right.
like anything beyond that is too much. You're in my space.
I'm
man.
going to crack that nut. You're gonna consider me family. You're gonna welcome.
Yeah,
them.
tell my in-laws of a decade.
I will not.
because they're huggers. I am not, and
You could
they've
put
all
me in your
accepted
place.
me
I'll be your proxy
as the
hugger.
non-hugger. Yes.
I saw a great T-shirt. It's like a cactus.
Yeah.
It was like no hugs, and I
Whoops,
feel
sorry.
like I sent you a screenshot of that. Like I found your birthday.
I don't know if you did, but
I have another non.
you could be my hug stunt double. I don't know what I'm gonna edit. Like this is either spanning 2 or 3 episodes, or you're just gonna come back to this part where I'm explaining that we did have to cut away because she admitted to illegally filming Parks and
Holding
Rec.
things hostage.
Yeah, having persistent library fines.
Being just a.
Becca, it has been a real pleasure. It was exactly what I knew it would be.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. so
And
much
thanks for having
coming.
me as a friend.
Yes.
I do treasure your friendship.
Oh, ditto.
And that was like
Are
a
we gonna
verbal
get
hug.
sappy? She's.
Don't forget,
Yeah.
you have to hide a shiv in my cake.
And we will hang up the phone. Thank you guys for tuning in. See you next time.
We'll talk soon.
Yep. Bye bye. They go on the wall.
They do. You're right.